there, and welcome to the Surviving Trauma Stories of Hope podcast. In today's episode, I welcome a very special guest, Erica Moseley, to this podcast. He joins me from his home in Austin, Texas. Eric is a social impact documentary filmmaker, a homeless advocate, director, author, and a businessman who grew up in Detroit, Michigan. Eric's story starts after he dropped out of school, became involved with gangs, substance abuse, and eventually became homeless. Eric navigated the streets for many years across the US while raising his daughter Erica. Navigating the streets allowed for him to see firsthand what it was like on the streets of Los Angeles. After reaching rock bottom, Eric sought the help he needed to turn his life around, and now he uses his experiences to become a motivation for others. On the podcast, Eric shares his story. He gives us insight into some of his documentaries and his outreach training and community support program, Each One, Teach One. Eric is charming, passionate about his purpose, and he's easy to talk to. I loved having him on the show, and I am sure you are going to enjoy this episode as much as I did. Enjoy the episode, and a special thank you to my listeners for joining me on this journey. Comment on my posts on Instagram and Facebook, and let me know what you think. Stay tuned, and as always, keep listening. So welcome to the show, Erica Moseley. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for accepting my invitation.
And thank you for having me on, Marlene. It's my pleasure. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm envious of your lovely warm weather in Austin, Texas.
Oh, wow. So you guys don't get this over in Africa?
Well, not at the moment. It's raining outside.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, at least I'm outside. Well, at least you're inside.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming to share your story. If you don't mind, we can jump straight in and you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, my name is Erica Moseley. That's how I go by on the web. I grew up in the city of Detroit, Michigan. At the age of 2 years old, my family, my mother and my father and my two sisters, we moved to California where I started school. In 1968, we moved back to Detroit simply because my mom and dad, they got a divorce. So I ended up back in Detroit. I ended up joining gangs and started smoking marijuana, got addicted to crack cocaine, dropped out of school. Well, I dropped out of school first, got addicted to crack cocaine, became a single parent father who traveled across the country with a young child in the pursuit of happiness. And from that, I ended up becoming a social impact documentary filmmaker. And that's a long story, but how I did that was I wanted to become a reality television show producer. And the only thing that I knew about was homelessness. So I tried to make a reality TV pilot, and come to find out I had 2 hours worth of footage, which was a documentary. And from there, I just became a social impact documentary filmmaker. And thanks to people like you, I'm becoming known all around the world, even in Africa, Marlene. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Yes, we do know you over here because I do remember your film. It was featured here on Cape Town TV.
Yes, it was. I did have a documentary that aired on Cape Town TV. It was called The Homeless Coronavirus Outreach, where my daughter and I, we went out on the streets to educate the homeless about the coronavirus. And to our understanding, 5 out of 10 homeless were unaware of COVID-19. And so that, that struck a tone with the mayor of San Francisco, the governor. And what happened was from there, the city of San Francisco started housing the homeless in hotels. And then it went down to Los Angeles. And now it's spread it all across the country. So I talk with homeless people and they say, look, man, we're in hotels and stuff like that. Now I don't go and tell them, hey, look, I put you in that hotel, but it's part of the risk that me and my daughter took going out on the street and educating people about the homeless coronavirus and bringing it to the attention of the officials that need to know about it.
Yes, that's amazing. And while we're talking about the film and, the interview that you did, that was just sort of a spontaneous footage that you would shoot on the streets.
Yes, actually, the type of documentaries I do, I don't go in with high-tech cameras because that's intimidating to a lot of homeless people. And I don't use a whole lot of high-tech editing and stuff like that. My thing is the message. And so I use an iPhone and I just recorded some of the events that my daughter and I we're going out educating the people and taking the census and, giving them care packets and letting them know that, hey, there's people that do care about you out here. And so that's basically what that was.
Yes. But I want to take a few steps back. So explain to me how you and your daughter lived on the streets. You said in your introduction that you dropped out of school, you got involved in gangs and drugs. So how long did you carry on that lifestyle with your daughter living on the streets?
Well, I got too old to be in gangs and with the drugs, there's no age addiction for that. But
I didn't realize you could be too old for a gang.
yeah. Well, some people haven't caught on to that yet, Marlene, but I found out that I got too old for the gang, so I got out. With the drugs, I eventually kept praying to God to get off of the drugs, and that happened. But like being out on the streets, we stayed out on the streets for approximately 16 years altogether, or maybe 20 off and on. So it was first my daughter and me and my baby's mother. And me and my baby's mother, we were heavily involved in drugs and just taking my daughter all across the country. I'm not going to lie. We took her through pure hell. When my daughter's mother and myself, we broke up, I continued taking my daughter through that same pure hell as just taking her all across the country. And we did sleep up under a bridge, and I did tie like a rag around my arm or a shirt or something. So in case somebody would come to lift her up and take her away while I was asleep, I would feel them lift her up. But again, we went to maybe 40 different states, just trying to find happiness. And the toughest part about that was trying to get my daughter registered in school simply because I was a man and the female wasn't there. So the teachers and the principal would ask me, well, where's the mother? And I would tell them, hey, look, you guys don't ask mothers that about the fathers, where the fathers when they, when they're doing it. So I took that very personal. And when I would take her to the doctors, they would ask her all kind of questions about, what does your dad do to you behind the scenes and things of that nature. But I still stuck through it and know that I could raise her and that I never gave up as being a parent. And so together we just, first I got off in the social impact and she seen that I was doing well with it. And then she decided that that was something she wanted to do. And then she's up in San Francisco doing her thing. But to make a long story short, we stayed out there for 16 years and it was pure hell. But we made it through. And here I am sitting up here talking with Marlene in South Africa today about it.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful. I'm curious to know, what was the point where you hit rock bottom and you decided, okay, no more drugs and I have to get off the streets? What did that rock bottom look like?
Well, that rock bottom was me being in a bathtub on all fours, 2 knees and 2 hands, overdose in front of my daughter off of crack cocaine. And it was such an embarrassing moment at that time because I wasn't even embarrassed that I was overdosing. The part that I was embarrassed of, that God had me stuck with the shower running over my head and I was naked in front of my daughter and I couldn't move. And she was like standing there like, Daddy, no. And I was begging God for my life. So, and, that was the breaking point. That was the part that I finished. But before that, I went to a outpatient drug facility in Los Angeles, California, by the name of Homeless Outreach of Greater Los Angeles. And a woman there said it's so simple to me. She said, you know what? You have a choice to get high or not to get high. And I took that choice and I started using the tools that they taught me about recovery and turned that around to become a normal person. And then from there, that's how I started getting off into, making documentaries and things of that nature. But it wasn't easy. But I had to overdose in front of my daughter. We went without me paying rent, not buying food and not having clean clothes for her to go to school. I mean, the whole nine. It's not even embarrassing because maybe I can be a vessel for someone who is going through something like that, is to be like, hey, look, if that guy was that low and could be able to turn it around, that I could do the same thing. So that's the reason why I tell the whole in-depth story like that about the overdosing and then coming back and becoming a successful social impact documentary filmmaker.
Yes. And I think, what I hear from your story is that it doesn't matter. You and your daughter, you had a very strong bond and you had the love for her. And that still persists today.
Yes. Well, actually, she and I, we have our differences on a lot of different things today, but we're still father and daughter. because of all the things that we went through and her growing up without a mother and things of that. She still kind of is upset about that, but it's nothing I could do about the past. What I tell her is there's nothing I could do about the past, but the bond that we had while we were out on the street, I did put my addiction first, but I also never gave up to the point. It's like, you know what, I'm going to turn you over to child protective custody or, let somebody take care of you. I never thought about that. I always said, hey, look, I would tell her, I would say, look, I'm going to make it through this. I'm going to make it through this process right here. And I'm going to be the father that I'm supposed to be. And it ended up turning out in my favor.
Yes. And Eric, do you have any advice for the listeners, that find themselves in these difficult circumstances, being, like you said, on and off on the street? Because not everybody is on the street on a full-time basis.
Right. Well, somebody that's out on the streets, this is the time that you take advantage of not paying rent and take advantage of working on your skills and your craft. Each and every day that you get up, I don't care if you write down a journal, if you're on the streets, you should live in the library. I'm in front of the library right now. I'm not even on the streets, but go and study your craft. Go get on the internet. Go deal with people who are trying to do the same thing you're doing. And don't ever give up. I don't care how dark the situation might seem. It's to continue on. Just take the baby steps. Each of those steps are taking place. Just like when you started doing whatever you were doing, whether it was drugs or whatever got you into that situation, it didn't happen overnight unless it was a catastrophe. And even then, that just didn't happen overnight because, there was things that led up to that. So my message to that person is to never give up, keep that faith. And hey, you never know, you might become the next Eric Protein Moseley.
That is amazing advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let's move on and let's talk about the work that you do now. You are a social impact documentary filmmaker, but you also do work within your community. And part of that is to move the homeless into an employment program. Now, I find that so interesting. Can you tell us more about that?
Okay, so I have created a program called the Each One Teach One infrastructure. It's still in progress. And what we do is provide training and skills for the upper class homeless to be able to obtain a job with a tech company so that he or she could be able to influence the middle and the lower class individuals. Now, let me break that down. There's 3 classes of homelessness. There's upper, there's middle, and lower. The upper class homeless is an individual. Yeah, a lot of people didn't know that. And so when I share that, that's like my signature thing right there that I teach people about the 3 classes. So there's upper.
You're educating me because I did not know that. I just thought that if you're homeless, you are homeless. But this is very interesting. So there are 3 classes of homelessness. Okay.
Correct. And the upper class is the individual where he or she takes care of their hygiene and trying to make it back into the mainstream society, possibly staying in a shelter, maybe living with a girlfriend or a boyfriend, couch surfing, or things of that nature. Well, the lower class homeless is the ones that just take the title of homelessness, where he or she is not trying to make it back into the mainstream of society, doesn't take care of their hygiene, not trying to obtain employment and things of that nature. And the middle class is the one that's just stuck in the middle, not knowing if they're going to slip into being a lower class or not knowing if they're going to make it back up into the upper class of homelessness and then back into the mainstream of society. So, Marlene, I'll break it down like this. If I were to tell you, hey, look, I'm bringing a homeless person to your birthday party, you would be like, no, I don't want to smell that. I don't want to this and that and this. But I would bring an individual who's an upper class, who's got on a new thrift store outfit, who shaves, who bathes, and you wouldn't know that that individual was homeless because they were upper class homeless. Now, these are the type of people that I'm trying to slide into employment with the tech companies to be able to attain employment and be able to deal with the rise in housing market that's taking place right here in Austin, Texas. Because when I was in Silicon Valley, the same thing happened, which was the tech companies moved in, make the rents and the mortgages skyrocketed. And so where a person that was working at McDonald's was working at a regular job couldn't afford the rent. So they had to move out and move to Oakland. And so then when they moved to Oakland, Oakland did the same thing. And so then they were just pushing these individuals back. And I'm trying to make sure that Austin, Texas doesn't turn into Silicon Valley. And I'm going to do it. Do each one, teach one infrastructure.
Yeah. So is there a direct correlation with these tech companies moving into these areas and the increase in homelessness?
No, they don't want to know about it. They just, I mean, everybody is out to make their money. And it's like, hey, look, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But when you get to that bridge, it's going to be a whole bunch of homeless people that's down there. And on top of that saying, hey, you can't come under and you can't cross it. Then they're going to try to come up with a solution. No, let's come up with the solution right now. Let's give these homeless, the upper class homeless individuals, jobs that start off at $20, $25 an hour, where they will never have to come to the office, Marlene, because you know why? Because they're homeless outreach public safety workers. They'll be dual trained. Basically what they'll do is they'll be mediators between the homeless and with the regular society. And so the tech companies, I'm getting a little bit of leeway, but a lot of them still don't want to hear about it because they're still trying to build and they're still trying to get their foot in the ground here in Austin. But I'm steady knocking on their doors like, yo, this is not going to turn into Silicon Valley. I've called out to Governor Abbott, who is right up the street up here, that, you know, with the tech companies, the homeless, and with, you know, with myself, we're going to make this happen some kind of way. And Elon Musk.
Right. Have you had any success with some of the tech companies? Are some of them backing you and saying, okay, we recognize that there is this upper class homeless and that they can fit back into society, and we are willing to meet you halfway to help you with the outreach public safety worker program?
Well, this is what happened, Marlene. When I was up in Los Angeles, I went up to San Francisco, and my daughter and I, we talked to like a global individual who was working for Salesforce. And that individual was so convinced that that would be the perfect program. But there's a thing that came. I don't know if you heard about it. It's called the coronavirus.
Oh, Eric, you such a tease.
Yeah. And so maybe you guys haven't heard about it, but it came. And then that just destroyed all of our dreams as far as pitching that in the Bay Area. And so, you know what I said? I'm going to stick with this. And since all the tech companies moved from Silicon Valley to Austin, I said, guess what? I'm not giving up on this because I'm too deep in. And so I said, I'm moving to Austin too, just like Elon Musk, just like Oracle, just like Joe Lonsdale. I'm moving there too. And so now I'm trying to implicate the same thing. Well, it's not the same thing because now it's not a problem about the housing rents going up yet. But so now it's a prevention. Let's prevent what happened in Silicon Valley for it to not happen here in Silicon Hills. So they were going to do it in the valley, and the coronavirus came, and now they're up on the hill. So no, I'm climbing the hill too.
Okay, right. I get you. So now that the coronavirus has come, right, and you've changed your strategy, you are now saying we are going to prevent what we've seen happen in Silicon Valley. So what measures have you put in place with your program in Austin, Texas to prevent this from happening?
Well, actually, it's still in the beginning stages. So all I'm doing is like right now is like dealing with people like yourself as being able to promote it and keep calling these individuals out. And I also have the homeless coronavirus outreach documentary that's airing in Austin, Texas on their government channel. And during that documentary, it also shows how a homeless outreach public safety would conduct themselves. So right now, it's just all in the promotion. Like I'm saying, there's so much building right now that they don't want to bring their heads up from out of the construction and, listen right now. But like I said, I'm an individual who I never give up. And like they heard of me and they know what I'm trying to do. So, and I'm not a type of person that wants to knock on your door one time and it just opens and I come in. I like the strategy. I like the no's. I like people telling me, hey, look, well, we're not ready for this. So to answer your question, we're kind of like in the middle. They're not ready and I'm ready. And so I have to just make them ready, but I'm not going to stop until each one teach one infrastructure is set in place in Austin, Texas to make sure that this city doesn't turn into Palo Alto or San Francisco.
Yes. No, that's fantastic. Even though it's in its infancy, it has the potential to really like take flight, gain traction.
Right. And let me add this too. I also just got through completing all of the footage on my next documentary, which is called In Correspondence with Eric Protein Moseley. And that's to, be in correspondence with the president, the governor, and people of high power, and also people who aren't in power. But through that documentary, it starts in Los Angeles and goes to El Paso, Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio. And it's talking to everybody out on the streets and asking them, hey, are you guys ready for this tech evasion that has hit Texas? And what do you have to say about it? Oh, and I got some compelling stories. I was just down at City Hall where the homeless were trying to protect their tents because they have put up tents around City Hall, and a guy got arrested. I got some of the best footage I ever got, but it's heavily talking to the homeless about the tech evasion in Texas. And I'm going to get the attention of the governor through this documentary in correspondence with Eric Protein Moseley.
Right. So maybe I'm missing something, Eric. The goal ultimately is to prevent tech companies from coming in, pushing up the rent, which then force people to move out of the city, out of Austin to neighboring areas, and possibly not being able to afford the rent either in that area and then becoming homeless.
Exactly. So it's a prevention. It's a prevention of homelessness. And then I want to take it a step higher, not just homeless people, but people that work at Burger King, people that work at McDonald's who have been living in these cities all their lives. And now they're going to have to find themselves living in another city, or like you just said, or either becoming homeless. So yes, let's prevent the people from being homeless. Like what they should have done, like up in San Francisco. It's too late for that, but let's prevent it here in Austin, Texas. And that's what, yes, that you hit it right on the nail.
Okay. And tell me, I mean, I've seen on your profile and also on the internet, your documentaries have been picked up by some of the local television news stations. I know that, of course, we've had it in Cape Town, some of your documentaries. Where else did it air?
Oh, wow. I'm glad you asked that. It did air in Cape Town. It aired in 2 islands in Hawaii. It aired in New York, 2 different channels in New York, Duluth, Minnesota, and it aired like all across America, but it did make it abroad. And people in different countries have heard about the documentary and have heard about me. Now, here's the thing. Even if I don't pick up someone in America to do it, say, hey, it might be a tech company over there in South Africa that's watching this right now, or in England somewhere and saying, hey, look, you know, they don't want to pick up on it on Austin. Let's take us a homeless, upper-class homeless individual, put him or her out on the street and let him or her be a homeless outreach public safety worker. And then America might catch on to it. So it doesn't just have to bloom in America.
Yeah. I mean, we have the concept of public safety workers here in South Africa. So definitely, I mean,
there's you all already have that. Yeah. And so that you guys already have that, maybe a tech company should jump on. And let me tell you what the tech company is going to get out of this. This is not advertisement, but just think if you were Google, right? And you had Google downtown Austin somewhere with the shirt or a sweater on that said, you know, homeless outreach public safety with the big G on it. So people are going to want to know, who is that? Why are you here? This is not tech. And that person would explain to them, I'm a homeless outreach public safety worker. And what I'm doing is working for Google and, you know, as the homeless outreach public safety worker. But look at the advertisement that Google will get, or whatever Oracle or Elon Musk will get from just hiring this individual for $20 an hour for 5 hours a day and for 5 hours a week. Come on now. Okay. If Google can't afford that, then they just need to shut down.
Right. And so what would the kind of sort of the job description of these public safety workers be? So they would be employed by the tech company, but then what would their work be? What would they be doing out there on the streets?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that. The main objective for these individuals is that they're going to be mediators between the homeless individual, by them already being upper class homeless, meaning they know the people out on the streets. And this is like, a lot of people might not want to adapt to this, but they're going to know the drug dealers. They're going to know just the people that hang out on the streets. They're going to know the homeless, and they're going to have a rapport with them. This is something that tech companies don't have. Doesn't mean that they're going to be buying drugs or doing these type of things, but they're going to know these individuals. So say like if you came to Austin, Texas, and you got out of your car. So where they park their cars at in Austin, Texas is right by the homeless shelter. And the people that get out and walk to the clubs and stuff, Willie Nelson's club and things of that nature, they're scared. They're walking sideways because when they reach a group of homeless people, they don't know if they should cross over, if they hold their wallets or whatever. But if you got there and you seen somebody standing there with a Facebook emblem, and he's there talking to the drug dealers, talking to the homeless people, you would feel a little safer. And then when he came to you and said, hey, look, where you parked at? Where are you going? Can I walk you to the spot you're going to? Let me know what time you're coming back and I can walk back with you. And so when the homeless people see him and you together, they're going to be like, hey, look. So my main thing is that these individuals will have a rapport out on the street. No one has that. Everybody's doing their own thing. Okay, we're tech, we're making money. The people on the streets, well, we're low and we're not getting money, and there's no mediator. Let me create mediators between the tech companies and the people on the street. No one has done that yet.
Yes. Look, I mean, I like the concept because you creating employment, you're taking someone off the street, and you're providing public safety. So I like that concept.
Oh, and it's a marketing strategy for the tech company, because they're going to get a lot of press as like, hey, look, we put homeless individuals to work and having them being able to afford market rate apartment.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's awesome. That sounds like a absolutely good strategy. It sounds like a win-win.
Right. And they talked about this in Ireland and in England, and now they're talking about it. You're talking about it, and I had like 2 or 3 other podcasts to talk about it. So this is going to happen. I already see it. You know, when you just see something, Marlene, and it just has to take time to develop, it's going to happen.
Yes. But I also think, that the government should also become involved, and you're talking to the governors and you're talking to the powers who be in the government structures. And so, yeah, I think that it might give some more motivation for the guys to buy in. Yeah.
Yes, I have been reaching out to Governor Abbott, and the last footage that I got down at City Hall, I'm having those individuals reach out to Governor Abbott too and let him know that there's something you could do about it. Don't wait too late. Yes, you're bringing a lot of jobs. I admire him, seriously. I'm a Democrat and he's a Republican, but I admire Governor Abbott for all the jobs that he's bringing here to Texas. No one is doing that anywhere right now. But,
yes,
can you give one homeless person a job? That's all I'm asking. I also want to call out Indeed, because they're here in Austin, Texas. I know you heard of Indeed. That's the biggest online job service in the world, I believe. Indeed, they're here in Austin, Texas. They need to team up with me as well. And let's give one homeless person a job. I'm not asking for 30,000. Let's start off with one and let's see where we go from there. Indeed.
Yeah. Can I ask you, Eric, for the people who are listening, is there anything that you could give them that can sort of be a call to action for them? Is there any way that they can participate?
Yes, there's a way that they can participate, in a call for action is to write. If you're in America, write your legislative and talk about this Each One Teach One infrastructure. You can go online and Google Each One Teach One infrastructure. Do that. Or if you might know someone that works at a tech company, put me in contact with them in Austin, where I can talk to someone that has the power. Not to say that I don't know individuals of that, but I want to call out to everyone in America. Let's help get this program done. So yes, it is a call of action for everyone to reach out to your local, state, and your government officials and say, hey, look, this guy, I see this podcast of this guy with this real beautiful African princess named Marlena in Africa, and he's got a good idea, and let's put this into play.
You're so funny. Let me see. So where would they be able to reach you if they wanted to get involved in the program that you are running? Do you have a website and social media pages?
I do. You can go to my Facebook page, but you could Google Eric Protein Moseley, and you'll see my Facebook page there. And even if you Google Eric Protein Moseley, you'll see all of my other contact information there. But my email address is Eric, ERICPMOSELEY @gmail.com.
Fantastic. And I just have one more question.
Yes? And I know what that is going to be, but before you ask me why they call me Protein, listen, yes. I also want people to check out my book. It's called Eric Protein Moseley From the Ground Up, and it talks about everything of how I started from being born to right now, this minute, and it's on Amazon. It's called Eric Protein Moseley From the Ground Up. And the reason why they call me Protein, because I did another podcast with a guy named Toso in England, and he explained it to me better than I can explain it. Protein is the core building block of everything. So without protein, you have nothing. So everybody needs protein. I keep it that simple. Now, the women call me Protein for other reasons, but that's not why my name is really Protein.
Okay, so I'm going to say, it's about the chocolate shake.
It's about the chocolate shake. It's about the core building block of everything positive. You have to have protein to have anything.
No, it's true. I like it. Well, Eric, do you have any last words that you want to share with the listeners?
The last words that I have is, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all of his righteousness, and all shall be added. And if those that don't believe in God, just believe in perfect karma, that whatever you put out in the world, that you're going to get that back, whatever energy you do. So please put positive energy out in the world and be willing to accept positive energy coming back to you in a positive format.
That is wonderful words and so true. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Marlene.
That wraps up this podcast episode. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy my podcast, please take a minute to give me a rating and review in Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe in your favorite podcast directory so you don't miss an episode. Please consider following My Centered Life on Facebook and Instagram for daily inspiration. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. You can catch me again in the next episode. Same time, same place. Sending you lots of love and light. Bye.